Howdy folks, this is one of my favorite exercises to start loading our shoulder, learn how to stabilize through our rotator cuff, get some protraction back in our lives, decrease a bunch of chronic elevation in our scapula, improve our shoulder strength, and ultimately range of motion. So I'm a really crazy strong guy. You'll see here that I have a massive 10-pound kettlebell. When we're starting off with this exercise, it's best to use a kettlebell. You're going to use a light one. I joke with most people that I give this exercise to. I've made an NFL defensive lineman cry with a 10-pound kettlebell. You are probably not as strong as that individual was, so let's start light. Make sure our form is perfect. Big pet peeve of mine, when people think this exercise is way too easy, I'll guarantee you that you are not paying attention to key aspects of form to ensure that you're actually getting benefit from this movement. Now, you could also use, if you're struggling with the 10-pound kettlebell and you don't have necessarily a 5-pound kettlebell, you could also use a light dumbbell for this exercise, but the dumbbell is going to be a lot easier. The weight is more centered on my hand versus this bottoms up kettlebell position where the weight is far away from my hand and my wrist. So a couple of key points when we're doing this exercise, okay? It's all about getting in the correct position. So you're gonna take this kettlebell. I want you to grab it by the handle with the bottom pointed up to the sky. I want you to grip this thing as if your life depended on it. So grip it as hard as you possibly can, even if that 10-pound weight to start might be pretty light. Now, what we're gonna do is get into a 90-90 position with our shoulder. What do I mean by that? I have a 90-degree angle here between my arm and my side, and I have a 90-degree angle here between my forearm and my upper arm. Now, what I'm gonna also do is I tell people to bring your elbow away from your body. Keep that elbow in line with your shoulder to maintain that 90-90. And last thing that I really cue people on is making sure that we have a good, stable core position. So if I go to the side, a lot of people love to hang out kind of like this. And these are the folks who say, this exercise is super easy, what's the benefit? You're not getting any benefit because we don't have attention to our form details. So first, I've got this big arch in my back, which means I'm not using any of my low back or my core muscles like I should. I'm just hanging out on my low back joints. So we want to get in a nice, strong, muscle-activated position. Usually involves some combination of bringing my ribs down instead of flaring them up and bringing my pelvis up or my belt buckle kind of more parallel to the ground versus pointing towards the ground. So tuck and tuck. You should immediately feel those core muscles turn on. This is a good sign we're doing this correctly. Now second, notice I'm holding the kettlebell way down here. Again, I'm just hanging out on my passive structures such as my elbow joint and hanging out in my scapula, rather than being strong and active and getting that arm into that 90-90 protracted, not elevated position. You can already tell I am shaking a little bit because right now, what I'll point it out to you, is I'm feeling these muscles here, my rotator cuff muscles, absolutely on fire from having to stabilize this position. A lot of times these days, we love to live in elevation, we love to live in retraction. So teaching our shoulder blade how to be nice and strong in this relaxed, almost depressed state and protracted versus retracted is very powerful and important. So once I get into that perfect position, all I'm simply going to have you do is go for a little walk. When we start to walk, you might notice that your elbow will start to dip, your arm might drop into a little internal rotation rather than staying strong. Biggest thing I see people is they immediately lose that core position. So we go back to hanging out on our joints rather than being nice and active, all right? So let me switch to the left side here. I'm just gonna get into that good 90-90 position, kind of protract or move that elbow away from my body. Make sure my core is in a good position. I feel like someone could hit me on the stomach and I'd be okay. And we're just gonna go for a nice slow walk. All right, I don't have a whole ton of space in here, so maybe I take a few steps, quick turnaround. Hope I stayed on frame there, right? And go for kind of the prescribed amount of time. This exercise is much more about quality than it is quantity. If it feels easy, it shouldn't be. So double check your form, send a video, look in the mirror, see if you're in that perfect position, core, elbow, shoulder blade, arm. If we check all those points and it's still crazy easy, either you've got massive bulletproof shoulders, maybe you need to up the weight a little bit. So this is one of my favorite exercises. Again, this is the 90-90 kettlebell bottoms up carry. See you on the next video.